All right, welcome everybody to the NWO Show, your source for everything New World. Coming in off of a really nice pre-show with a brand new look for the new year. I'm of course joined by McLeod, my wonderful co-host from across the ocean.
Hello there. Hello there.
We're in for a good night. There's not an overall crazy amount of stuff to talk about, but we do have some deep topics to hit on. As the stream name suggests, we're going to be talking about bots. We're going to be talking about RMT. We're going to be talking about some of the darker sides of gaming, and we're going to preface this by stating that in no way are we endorsing any kind of RMT. You should not RMT. You should not bot. You should not do any of these things. They're obviously in violation of the terms of service for the game. And I hope that you consider doing other things instead of those things. For people that have the question of what is RMT, RMT is real money trading.
Yes.
Real money trading is basically, let's say I have a chunk of cash in game, and I say, "Hey, McLeod, you pay me $15. I'll give you this money in game."
Yeah.
That's RMT.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that's obviously not allowed. We do not condone that, nor does the game, nor does AGS. It's explicitly forbidden in their terms of service. Everybody and their mother has seen the bots in global spamming, gold selling websites and all that, and the new rise of bots over the last 4 weeks or so has been a different kind of bot. Initially, we saw phishing bots a lot because it's easy content. It's something very repetitive that they don't have to move around. They don't have to be very reactive. However, we've seen a new type of bot come up that is troubling.
A little bit on the the funny thing is, I saw sort of hints, like little kind of reports here and there about about sort of more how you'd say more sophisticated bots, right? These kind of bots sort of surfaced a little bit after the whole kind of phishing bot controversy sort of thing, with people seeing fairly new players all doing very specific kind of movements, all basically moving on pretty much exactly the same kind of pathing, doing a lot of the beginner kind of tutorial missions and that kind of stuff, and it seemed a little bit too accurate and too similar, character after character after character, for it to be actual players. Because obviously, if you have objectives in the same location, you're going to be traveling in the same sort of direction. But what I'm talking about is literally exactly the same pathing. So kind of, we were hoping that wasn't going to be something that is, going to end up being, wholesale kind of terrible for the game. But it seems as though, those bots have been carrying on, and, there's, as a collective kind of group of players, we've kind of gotten a little bit more wise as to, how to be able to determine those bots, to figure out what those bots kind of look like. And, ideally, today we'll be able to kind of tell you how to be able to sort of figure out what those bots kind of look like, the telltale signs, that kind of thing. So hopefully you'll be able to figure out whether it's an actual bot or whether it's somebody who is just really, really good at at farming, at harvesting, stuff like that. So
we're gonna talk about what is now probably the most prevalent bot in the game, We're not going to talk about exactly where to get it. We're not going to talk about any kind of those details. So if you're looking for that, then this isn't the place. Now, how this bot works is it allows you to set a path. And by setting a path, it allows you to then, through some code, or reading the code and visualizing the code, it's allowing them to see active nodes around as they travel across the map. The problem is it doesn't identify between active and non-active nodes in the visual. So this means that they stop at every node. So let's say you're standing out in Windsward.
Would you explain what you mean by an active versus a non-active node?
So I'll give a full example. You're standing out in Windsward, and you're standing out in the field with a bison, and there's a bunch of hemp out there, and you're harvesting hemp. And all of a sudden you see a guy who most likely isn't in a faction, is running around and seemingly stopping at random locations for no reason. Well, that's kind of weird, isn't it? You know. But then you realize that he's stopping at every location that you have already mined hemp from. Those would be inactive nodes. It can't tell the difference. So it's going everywhere that it knows that there's those nodes based on what it can see. Well, that's a challenge. You know, what's even more interesting is if you intentionally get in front of them on what is an obvious route, you can detect very easily if it's a bot, because you mine out all but one, and as they're getting right up next to it, you start collecting it. And what it'll do, and you can see this very easily, you'll see them constantly hit basically constantly hit the E key, because it's trying to collect it because it knows it's there, but it's confused at why it's not being able to actually engage. Because it's a bot. It can't make that distinction. It just gets confused and tries to continue doing the one thing that it's told to do until it sees that, hey, it's actually collecting. You know.
So that's one of the most stark kind of ways of being able to determine, you know, whether what you're seeing is a one of the more sophisticated kind of bots, because like these kind of bots will route themselves, you know, to various different locations. You know, can even route themselves around stuff like dynamically, that kind of thing. So, you know, some of these bots are fairly sophisticated in terms of their pathing and all that kind of stuff, but
they can be set to collect different items. So, and they might be set to collect a variety of different items. So I've seen and followed one, you know, disrupting it every chance that I could for 20 minutes, as it collected honey from the honey trees, as it collected oil from the oil patch, as it collected hemp and iron. And I was like, that's odd. All of the time, not engaging with me, full well, like if it was a player, they would have been like, what are you doing? Like, why are you, like, you know, randomly running in front of them for no reason, intentionally going to what is their obvious next node to mine? Like,
not getting angry about it in any way.
But and they're not getting angry. They're not responsive in chat. They're, you know, the whole works. So like, something's clearly up. Yeah, I know. I'm a terrible bot griefer. Like, you know, they would actually have a case against me for disruptive behavior if they were an actual player. Which is funny because, you know, again, I haven't been banned for that or anything. So, like, obviously they're bots. Now, here's the thing where this gets crazy. This bot is so technically advanced that you can also have it run around killing NPCs. I've located on our server a location above Brightwood, a little bit. If I go to the map, Brightwood is here. It's a little bit off to the side over here, little bit western of Brightwood. And it's kind of there's a mission that's normally up there. It's like the Iron Fields or something like that. You know, in that area, they'll run from group to group with a hatchet, just killing people, or just killing NPCs over and over and over again. And functionally speaking,
they figured out
that's what they're doing. They're trying to level. They're trying to get the gold. Specifically, they're trying to get the gold. They want the drops. They want the gold. And in doing that, they can gather a lot of gold. And this boils into the RMT aspect, where you see the other bots promoting, hey, come buy gold from this website. Don't do that, obviously. I'm going to say that every time I give these examples, I'm going to tell you not to do these things. It's a terrible idea.
Exactly.
But they're making a ton of money doing this. And the only reason you know that is that they're prevalent. They would only be here if they were making money, which means there are people buying that gold, because they've got to make back the amount of money that they're making from advertising in game, which is a $40 cost per one of those bots that gets cost, and they've got to make back through the grapevine, they've got to make back whatever bots actually get caught out in the wild. Those are substantial factors to this. Sorry.
Yeah, because every single time that the bot is found, caught, and kind of removed, that's essentially a copy of the game that they've the people who are doing this have lost, and so they need to purchase it and carry on. Basically recoup that character to that level, sort of thing.
Now, it was much more prevalent when the family share system was on for Steam, where you could share the copy of the game, and then they could, they would only ban that copy, and then they'd forget to ban the actual owner of the copy. So when they solved that problem, that it went away. It went dramatically down. It didn't go away, but it went dramatically down.
Yeah, that the amount of the capacity for them to be able to share that one, that one copy of the game out to various different kind of things was, drastically reduced, down to one essentially. So they had to purchase more copies in order to be able to do that kind of thing. It's also one of these some people are also speculating about the fact that maybe players are sort of I don't think it's really kind of comes into the sort of bot kind of side of thing, but obviously the bots are essentially a means to to generate a lot of wealth or a lot of resources, right? And I'd like to make a kind of plea here to any and every kind of organization that has a lot of wealth that they're not doing much with. Guys, seriously, don't sell it to RMT to gold selling kind of sites. It's just
don't sell it to RMT, but also don't straight up just RMT it either. I think that they're when we cover this, we can't say that we have any proof that anybody has done this specifically, but what we can say is that it has probably been done. Yeah, because any time that there is a process incentive to do it, where hey, I'll be the first one to say, EVE Online, I have 4.5 trillion ISK worth of stuff. If I were to say that I haven't thought about RMTing all of that because I don't play the game anymore, then I would be lying, because the RMT value of that is in the tens of thousands.
Yeah.
But in terms of just being a morally straight person, I cannot justify doing it. However much I hate CCP.
Yeah, exactly.
So
because the last thing you want is to become something that they hate. You don't want.
That said, there are people who aren't going to think that way, that are going to think, hey, I have all this in-game money, I should just do this. I can make the money, I can make money quick, And if I get banned, I'll just make a new Steam account and come back in a different way, or, or whatever. It's dumb. Don't do it. It's not worth it. You can make just as much in game by just grinding and having fun. You don't turn this into a career. Yeah.
It also devalues everything as well. Like, devalues people's, like when you do that, basically devalues everybody's, everybody's time investment into doing various different things, and all of their efforts, right? In terms of wealth generation, all that kind of stuff.
Absolutely. So are there companies out there doing that? Possibly. There were probably some companies out there doing that. That said, I think that many people misunderstand the territory system and how much it actually costs to run a fully upgraded territory. Like, if you go full T5 everything for your entire settlement, it can cost you a couple $100,000 a week in upkeep. That is not a small number. Now, some people are going to turn around and go, yeah, but, Windsward Neverfall make, $500,000. Like, yes, you're not wrong. But again, that $500,000 is now cut down to $300,000. Then, of course, any competent leader is going to keep around enough to declare war in several territories several times. So you want a war chest of 200,000, if you can have it. And then from there, you're also going to take the excess money and you're going to start gearing up your crafters. You're going to start gearing up, which, before anybody jumps on this, like, the reason I say crafters first is that it cost $150,000 or 150,000 gold for a pair of T4 fucking weapons crafting pants. Like, literally, that's a number that people have paid.
Those red drops are worth something, man. Like, that's the thing. It's like, but you see that as an investment because, like, once that crafter has those kind of things, he can, he can craft, higher level stuff for, the majority of your, your company's kind of players. That works out as being a beneficial kind of, beneficial sort of investment.
Now, here's the thing with this. No. That's one crafter. What happens if that guy gets hit by a bus? You're going to buy another pair still. So buying, you're not buying it just once, you're buying it several times. You're also trying to make sure that, hey, how can I help, like, the guys who are constantly involved in everything? How can I get them the best equipment? How can I get an upgrade for somebody, as a reward for service to the company? Like, that kind of thing. Like, if your company is making that kind of money, like somebody said, they're making over $1 million in Everfall per week, then they should be gearing up their people. And here's the kicker to that. It should behoove you to attack them and try and get that advantage for yourself and for your company. That is the definition of territory having enough value. Let's go to the extreme opposite end of this, because we're going to talk about what people are referring to as the legal dupe of money when it comes to territory ownership. So just about every server right now that you go to in every territory has the housing cost, or housing taxes maxed. Like 100% maxed. Now, the reason for this is that the total housing cost was reduced by, I think it was like 80 or 90% for the last 6 weeks or so. And the benefit behind this was that they enabled companies to still get the same amount or more, or slightly more in some cases, than they would normally receive. So The maximum you can set it at is, I believe, 2%. I used to be able to set it at 6%. So, you know, it's still on the very low end of what it could have been. But people are complaining that, hey, the companies are just duplicating the money here and making a ton of money. Well, again, you know, having owned territories like Cutlass Keys, I can tell you they don't make that much money. You know, I think now after the market changes and all that, it makes $100,000 per week. You know, which goes away pretty quick with those upgrades. And you know, goes away with the upgrades, just trying to keep up with either wars or you know, losses to invasions and stuff like that. They're gonna, you know, that's gonna burn things. The upkeep on the territory is gonna cost, you know, 40 to 60,000 depending on what you have upgraded. So that's meaningful amounts of money that are gone, and in the end, that 100,000 in a week actually turns it down pretty far. Like it doesn't end up being a meaningful sum of money by the end of it. Yeah. Now again, these are, you know, I'm talking about the smaller towns and the logic behind why they did what they did.
Yeah.
I think now that servers are merged, that needs to go away, because the housing cost needs to be returned to normal. You know, and that the amount paid in taxes needs to go to the companies and not more. You know, and with the market system having changed the way that it has, I think that it's also time, you know, that you know, Windsward and Everfall, their time is kind of up. Like things are going to start spreading out.
Well, I do hope so.
You know, because like, I mean, I know, like, I almost never do any kind of market stuff in Windsward or Everfall anymore, because, you know, you don't need to. If anything, I do most of my stuff from Evansgill Reach. Don't tell my company that. It's because they have a gypsum forge there, so.
Ah, right, okay, that'd be one then. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah,
so, but you know, don't basically what I'm trying to get by conflating these three things, bots, RMT, and territory ownership, is that oftentimes people are pointing at the wrong problem. There are some territories that make a lot of money. There are some territories that make almost nothing. And there are some territories that are actually run at a loss because the governor doesn't know what they're doing.
Yeah.
The reality here is that, yes, there are probably some companies that are RMTing. The lion's share of RMT gold, you know, real money trading is happening because of bots. Like, and what's worse is we know exactly how they work. We know, you know, down to the functionality how they work, and this is also why AGS has openly stated, "Hey, this is what it is." What data do I have to support this? The number of bots that I've seen in game. I guarantee that the bots make more money than the territories do.
Yeah, it's difficult 100%. To get like. It's difficult to get concrete information and concrete kind of like evidence from other people, like, you know, because, you know, we found this in other MMOs, and it's a case of, you know, people erroneously, you know, consider somebody to be a bot when they're not a bot. You know, you have to know kind of what you're looking for. You know, that's kind of one of the reasons why, you know, we covered, you know, what these bots look like and what to sort of look for with regards to their behavior and that kind of thing, and the sort of start of this, you know, the sort of the start of the main show. But that's the thing, you know, if you go on the just the sort of hearsay of other people, you know, it may not be accurate. Like obviously people can, you know, showcase like their evidence by, you know, by showing you the recordings and stuff like that of you know, bots that they've seen, that kind of thing. So, but it requires a lot of going through of evidence, a lot of going through materials and that kind of stuff. So it's kind of difficult to actually do.
So I want to clarify my intention here. Basically, I want to make sure that people are blaming the right problem.
Yeah.
It's not that there are, I don't want to say that there are no companies involved in RMTing, because that would be, just statistically speaking, a lie. From there, I think it's painfully obvious that botting is a problem. Anybody who's played anything, like if you've done any kind of gathering anywhere on the map, you'll see them all over the place.
Yeah. So, and the Reptical Cult actually does, in chat, does actually have a point that it is it's a very, very good point. In actual fact, we have it like listed down on the topics to cover. And it's very much a case of like, why does this exist? Because obviously, this doesn't happen for no reason whatsoever. And so, when we drill down into the issue at hand, we find that there is an inherent reason why, bot, like gold farming and sort of like material farming bots exist in New World at this particular point in time, because purchasing better equipment gets you a combat performance edge.
Mm-hmm.
And that's different to some other games where, it's more about the player skill. But that's where you get sort of like, not bots as such, but hacks. You get hacks that basically allow you to, see through walls. You get hacks that allow you to, instantly headshot and aimbot and that kind of stuff, right? So, it's a different style of kind of cheating kind of occurring.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, for the way that New World is set up, because it sort of stars itself on the RPG kind of element where your progression matters as much as just as much as your sort of like your skill. If you don't have that progression, if you don't have those the really, really good gear, you are at a disadvantage.
Yes. If you are level 60 and you don't have 600 gear score, you are at a disadvantage to everyone else who does have it. And it is a meaningful disadvantage.
It's a very big meaningful disadvantage.
Because, like, just in attribute points, a pure 600 gear score player has 500 points of attributes.
Yeah.
If you just hit level 60, you don't have anywhere near that. Like, you're often off by several. You're often off by, in some cases, you're off by like 150 attribute points or more, which is a colossal difference.
And then there's all the sort of like the perks for all the various different all the various different perks that you can get for the for the various different armors that you have. And then there's your armor selection, whether you're going void bent, whether you're not, all of that kind of stuff, right? Whether you're going to go with a full heavy build, whether you're going to go medium build to sort of be able to sort of deal with, be able to have those those 3 kind of dodge rolls. That's if you're not kind of running the perks to sort of get 3 dodge rolls in a in a heavy set sort of thing. But like, these are all kind of selections and all kind of things that like, you have to build, and you have this option to potentially, use use resources to get that advantage.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where, that's the crux of the issue.
Mm-hmm. So one of the other issues here is that, AGS has had some foresight into this being a problem. Like every MMO, any multiplayer game that has any kind of economy system has RMT. It is a problem everywhere. It is actively fought against everywhere, and it's a pain. One of the things that annoyed me, this is coming from somebody who's got 4.5 trillion ISK in EVE Online, is that they set a limit. that players can only have a certain amount of money in their wallet, and companies can only have a certain amount of money in their wallet. This is by design. Yeah. You know, you can't have what they consider an obscene amount of money before it just says, no, you can't have any more.
The unfortunate thing about that, like when it comes to sort of like companies that own and have owned like Everfall and Windswood for a long period of time, is eventually they're going to top out, like in terms of that currency that they have in their account, right? And it's just going to be basically currency falling off the back of the truck. So it kind of, you know, it makes sort of sense at that particular point that they start like, you know, throwing money to, you know, their more trusted kind of members of their company, and so on and so forth. The problem there is, you know, when those people start getting, you know, that kind of wealth, what do they do with it? And, you know, while you may kind of look at it and kind of go, you know, the governors and the you know, and you know, the officers and that kind of thing, and the consuls, you know, should know better not to send money to RMT kind of shops. When it gets to the point where they're sending money to, you know, long-standing members of their company who aren't at that kind of position, you know, those members should know not to do that as well.
Yes. You know, and so here's one of the unfortunate things about RMT. There is almost no way to identify it without people speaking out. I'm not, you know, again, I'm not supporting RMT in any way. But what I am saying is it's very difficult to prove, especially when you have instances where, like I mentioned earlier, you know, we bought a pair of weapons crafter or weaponsmith pants for 150,000 gold.
Yeah, if you're doing it correctly and you're actually, you know, you're using that money to enrich your players in a way that benefits your company, you know, by being able to craft and create gear that's you know, potentially best in slot, that's great. But if you're just throwing that money because you don't want it falling off the back of the you know, off the end of the wallet, and you know, you're not basically telling those people like what to do with it, they will eventually find out ways of what to do with it. And the one thing that you don't want to do with that money is to throw it to RMT shops, because, you know, eventually that's going to be found out, and that's not going to be a good time.
Now, what Amazon has said in their latest developer blog that was like an hour and a half long, is that February, they're going to basically be taking the majority of February and just ironing into bots, RMT, and any kind of cheating, and trying to hamper as much of it as possible and really solve it as much as they can. You know, obviously with a continued effort before and after that, but you know, it's being written in as a thing in their actual plan of, hey, we're going to take a month and focus our updates on this. Like, let's get this solved and get a good, meaningful solution to dealing with the blatant botting that we're seeing.
The other thing is, like, don't see sort of lack of movement in this as being inactivity, right? Because like, this is one of those things. It's a case of it's very much almost like an investigative kind of sort of process, right? You have to identify you know, the people who are selling, right? You have to kind of somehow get rooted into that to be able to identify, you know, what are the characters that are sort of like, you know, the kind of materials and the currency being funneled into, right? And then from there you can get the logs to be able to determine who's funneling that into, right? And so it takes time for that to happen, but like, be under no illusions whatsoever. You know, they will have logs to be able to show who transferred money to who. You know, even if those characters end up getting deleted, you know, between, you know, when they find out that, you know, this character moved this money, you know. So you may not see bots being, straight up deleted, or you may not see, or know of some, or you may know somebody who has, sold money or sold coin or sold materials or something like that to a gold seller or a, material seller or something, and they haven't been, banned yet, but like, that, that transfer is logged somewhere, and it's just a matter of time before it gets shown, before it gets found out and is used as evidence to ban somebody.
Yes. In terms of tracking RMT, once they there's a number of ways of doing this that are kind of creative, but like once you get introduced to the system, you can kind of see how that money trickles to that person, and it becomes a flow chart of how is this money trickling from generation to sale. And that's where you gain your meaningful bans, because you're going to be able to identify the entire system instead of that. And oftentimes what companies will actually do is they'll buy counterfeit gold, because they then know 100% that, okay, the character that this came from, or the method that this came from, the other end of this is fraudulent. Now we have a starting point to go from, and you track back from there. And again, when it comes to any kind of automation for these kind of systems and detection of these kind of systems, as somebody who literally does data analytics, I can tell you that the creation and mathematics and automation of a system like that takes a long time to develop, even with a large team. So, I actually applaud them for, saying, hey, February, we're gonna focus on generating better ways of dealing with this. Yeah, and I mean, the other side of this is that there's also been, a week and a half of holidays, because I know that everybody likes to think that, game developers don't have a life, but they do, and you can pretty much bet that nothing has gotten done in the last week and a half other than keeping the servers on, with the skeleton crew in the office, and people like me who just chose not to take leave, or got shafted by the office and made to stay. Like those kind of things happen. Yeah. But that said, the majority of the office isn't in there, so there's probably 2 weeks here of build up of, hey, the person who's responsible for that might have been on vacation, and they're running with the skeleton crew dealing with more pressing issues at the time. Now, is that the right thing to do? Leave that up to you guys, but the reality is, I think respecting the game developers as people and letting them take a holiday after what has been, frankly, not the greatest winter so far for them, I think it's well deserved that they got a break. So, there's that. But yeah.
And we're only like 3 to 4 months into the game, into the the length of the game so far. So, and they have, AGS have stated multiple times that they are, fully committed to supporting this game for years. So, we still have a long road in terms of in terms of updates, in terms of getting things correct. So a lot of time available to them.
So a note: all of the changes that were pushed before Christmas were on the PTR and were tested for several weeks with player feedback and all of that the entire time. And actually, some pretty substantial changes were made based on that feedback.
Mm-hmm.
Along with them admitting that the first time that they did the public test realm, that they didn't do it long enough, didn't take as much feedback as they would have liked to, and didn't act on that feedback as much as they would like to. So,
like it is rare when you actually see a game developer literally put their hands up and say, "I was wrong."
Mm-hmm.
You know, and they did that. Like, literally, they literally said, "You know, we were wrong." So, you know, you have to kind of see that as you know, something that is a rarity in gaming, a rarity from a leadership sort of standpoint, and you know, see that as, you know, what it is, which is, you know, honesty, you know, rather than just, you know, trying to cover things up or trying to scapegoat things.
Now, is it, you know, the thing here is, it's not that they're getting everything right. It's that they're accepting that they can be wrong, and that they are wrong in certain instances. You know, I posted the link to the hour and a half long video that's their New World team update, which is basically them talking about everything from bots to future content to, you know, new systems and priorities. You know, I think more content like this is needed. I personally, and this is, you know, there, some people will probably call me out for this, but like, I personally think that they need to get out there more onto Twitch shows, onto YouTube shows, get out there and integrate with the community, have the community run these kind of things and ask them questions, you know, in a live environment. You know, I know it can be frightening, you know, as I've, you know, anybody that's seen CCP give a live interview, it's, you know,
yeah,
you know, it's a frightening experience.
Bring that screaming back from my memories.
You know, but it's worthwhile. It gets the community on your side. It shows that, hey, you're not perfect. It also shows that you're people. You know, because oftentimes people will just give shit because, oh, it's Amazon and, you know, it's a, you know, built, you know, $1 trillion company. They you know, they shouldn't be. They shouldn't have any problems. And it's like, yeah, but it's still just people, and there's only so many people working on this, and those people also have lives.
Yeah.
You know. So. Yeah. Now, aside from that, I don't think they're doing everything right. I've given tons of feedback to them. And I know oftentimes people will turn to us and they'll say, you guys are too light on AGS. You guys need to be harder on AGS. There are things that they do wrong. Like the fact that we're talking about botting, the fact that we're talking about RMT, and a lot of these things is addressing that there was a problem here. You know, and I think people forget that, like, we could, like, if we were just here to, like, fluff things up, we could have a conversation about the lore, you know, and completely avoid any context of any problem. But we openly chose to pick this as the primary topic for this week, to ensure people understand that, hey, like, we're not skimping away from controversy. We're not giving them a break when they don't deserve it. We're going to hit them when there is an actual problem, and we think that there's a problem that they need to fix. You know, and that is important to note.
Very much so. I
so
can see Night Marcher in the chat. Anyway, sorry.
Good to see you, Night Marcher.
I was wondering whether we were going to go into discussing play to earn at all. Because, like, one of the... Yeah, I know it's one of these kind of, like, one of these awkward topics, and it's kind of like one of these sort of, like, touchstone topics that kind of people are talking about to some degree, because it's sort of somewhat related to NFTs, but, like, let's park that particular acronym and talk about, like, play to earn as a concept anyway. Because one of the kind of like promoted ways that, you know, game developers can kind of prevent this stuff from happening is to develop their own play to earn systems that basically cuts, you know, the RMT sort of sellers and botting and that kind of thing, like out from under them, right? The issue with that is when you create a system like a play to earn system, the emphasis from a company standpoint when they're developing game systems and stuff shifts away from enjoyable activities to just, you know, people will play because they'll try and earn, like they'll be wanting to earn stuff. And, you know, there's a lot of things that a lot of people will kind of, will kind of what do you say, they won't worry too much about if they're earning some kind of like paycheck from it, right? You know, if you're earning a paycheck on something, then you tend to sort of not be too annoyed by, you know, you're less aggravated by things that aren't enjoyable, right? Because you're actually making money from it. The issue there is when it comes to a play to earn thing from a game, the actual money that you will make, like per hour, is so horrendously low, it's laughable. And so you don't want companies going this route, because they will sacrifice like the enjoyment of like creating game loops and creating mechanics that are actually enjoyable, to the point where they'll be like, well, people will be playing this anyway because they'll be wanting to earn some money, you know. If people kind of want to know what that feels like, there's a game that I remember playing a little while ago, or quite a while ago in actual fact, called Entropia. And if you've ever played that, that is the most grindy game in, I swear, it's the most insanely grindy game. And you know, they tout it as, you know, basically something that you can earn a living from or earn money from, that kind of stuff. And it is basically a complete misnomer. It's a complete fallacy. Like you're not going to be able to earn anywhere near the amount of money that they say that you can earn, and it's just ridiculous. So you know, you don't want games like New World and you know, the like, to actually go that kind of direction. It's just a bad deal.
Yes. And if I can give the feedback, I'm hoping that one of them is listening, giving the feedback directly to AGS. For the love of God, don't touch NFTs. Yeah. Don't.
Jesus, no.
Like, just ignore them. It's a dumb fad that is only going to lead to people being, to dumb people being separated from their money very quickly.
I have a lot of issue and a lot of, like, comments to make about NFTs, but like, I know that a lot of people don't like talking about NFTs, so like, I will park that for a conversation. If you guys want to have that conversation in Discord, you can put !Discord in the chat and get our Discord kind of server link, to chat about this in, after the show if you want. But I don't think we really want to go into that particular conversation.
Yes. So I've got a couple of things that I do want to show.
Okay.
In terms of show news, there are a couple of things, and there's actually some resources that I think are one resource in particular that I think is very useful. So first and foremost, currently they've disabled world transfers. They haven't listed the reason, but the prevailing logic here is that this has to do with the persistence error that has to do with housing when too many houses merge into the same server. It's likely to do with that. I would assume that this is going to be addressed in either this week or next week in a patch. Probably being that it's only a day old, it'll probably get addressed within a week or two at most. If I had to bet, like, obviously I don't work for Amazon, so that's my bet on when it's going to happen. I also wanted to showcase Wildcaster TV. He's apparently got a YouTube channel. but he came out with a frames per second performance benchmark results that this is actually really good. Showcases what settings you have stuff on, of what settings to make sure that those settings actually have what you're aiming for. Are they actually going to impact meaningfully what you're doing in game, or your actual performance of your game? So turning up effect details to 100% or very high effectively saw no frames per difference, or frames per second difference, But if you turn up object details to very high, you had up to a 13% difference. So, there's some of these settings have a lot higher impact than others, and it's worth noting. And I think this is the kind of resource that's actually really useful.
There's some things that make a lot of sense here, because I think when it comes to just gaming in general, I think a lot of people know when you up these sort of shadow details and sort of the sort of the quality of the shadows, you invariably find that you get a performance hit on that one. So that makes a lot of sense. There is a kind of a sort of a caveat in one of these when it comes to texture details. And that is essentially, they talk about VRAM a lot, and that's basically the amount of RAM that you have on your graphics card. So if you have a set amount of VRAM on your graphics card, say for example, like me, I have a 1070 8 gig. I have 8 gigs of RAM, so if you look at the recommended VRAM there, 5 to 8 gigs, use medium settings, right? So there you go. Obviously, if you have a 3080 or something like that has 10 gigs, then you're good to go to very high. If you have a Titan or something of that form that has a ridiculous amount, then you're probably good to go to ultra, something like that. So yeah, just a little bit of additional explanation with regards to the texture details.
Absolutely. I'll also link the actual image here in chat.
Oh yeah, that would help.
Posted the Reddit, but also So yeah, I think that's this is the kind of stuff that it's relatively simple, but this might actually help you have a meaningfully better experience in game by knowing which settings you can turn down to make the most impact.
Definitely very useful.
Now, the other thing to note, and chat's right on this, there is a certain amount of your internet also has to be fast enough, and the server has to be fast enough, and if there is a lot of things going on, there is a certain measure of lag that isn't necessarily related to your frames per second. It's more related to the server is telling your computer that one thing is happening, and then in the next frame it's saying, never mind, something else happened. Because there's, for those that don't know, there is a little bit of predictive type stuff that happens in gaming, and in terms of trying to make things feel fluid. But if I suddenly take a right angle turn, it had already told your computer that I'm going forward, but then it's got to account for the fact that I didn't go forward and I turned 90 degrees, and then it's going to give a different vector for where I'm going, trying to predict next frames.
Yeah.
So
I have to wonder whether that might be, sort of some aspect of where, some of the sort of, war and outpost rush kind of lag is coming from, maybe. I don't know. This is just me speculating as such, but it would make sense if, under such a sort of crazy environment in terms of a player-on-player situation, that all of that calculation going on, that maybe some degree of predictive algorithms are sort of not keeping up fast enough, and causing a kind of a degree of lag going on. Yeah. Absolutely. But that is not to say that is the issue with regards to the a particular bug, right? A particular where is it? Yeah, a movement bug. That is something completely different, and that is hopefully something that AGS have kind of spotted and are working on. But yeah, that is definitely not to do with predictiveness, I think. Although you never know. They'll probably come out and be like, yeah, it was an issue as a bug with our predictive algorithm. It's like, it probably will be. You never know.
Yeah. So changing gears, I also want to make sure that people take advantage of things that are out there. Up until January 11th, the Wheel of Time crossover event, which basically is here on Twitch. You watch an hour at a time each time, and you can get, I think, 7 different drops from Twitch, which we have enabled on this channel. So, you do have to claim each one of them, and then it starts a timer for another hour, and then it starts a timer for another hour, and so on. I found that a little bit annoying, but at the same time, it's actually some pretty good-looking gear. So if you're
quite
willing,
useful in various ways.
Doing.
Like a lot of the sort of like cosmetic kind of stuff kind of works fairly well with various other things. So that's a nice kind of way of adding some additional marketing to New World and to Wheel of Time. So it's good.
Those 7 items are a few cloaks, a couple of weapons, and a crest. All skins, so they'll look good on pretty much whatever.
Really don't like the red Elia cloak, do you?
I'm not a fan. Not a fan of the red one. That's mostly for lore reasons within Wheel of Time, but that's a whole different thing.
I've seen some good kind of some people rocking it with the looking pretty good. So
one thing I do want to give people is this link. So this is your drops inventory. You can go in here and check to be sure that, hey, I've actually claimed these things. Like this is where you go to claim it each hour. And yeah.
So the Hayaku kind of brings up a kind of thing that I always hope that will eventually happen in New World is being able to dye some of the custom sort of skins. Essentially, I feel like the dye system is like very limited when it can be quite a decent system for to both provide some interesting kind of aspects, some interesting variations for us players, but also provide AGS with a degree of kind of repetitive and continual sort of microtransaction income as such. The way I kind of see dye system kind of working is it costing a lot less than it does now for the for the premium kind of dyes. You getting more of the premium dyes with that as well, but those premium dyes basically along with all of the other kind of dyes that you can get in game being something that slowly wears away and fades away on skins and stuff like that, so you have to kind of reapply them. Sometimes people I don't know, like I've had people like that idea, I've had people not like that idea. It's completely fine. I see that as a more sustainable way of income for in terms of microtransaction income.
Absolutely. So I think that there's my hope is that they add the ability to dye skins, because there are some really cool ones that I think could be more applicable to like making better sets if you could dye them to a different color to match those other sets.
Exactly.
But I mean, yeah. Skins are applied to, I think, the slot. So like if you apply a sword,
I think the only thing
it'll be every sword that you have.
I think I was going to say, I think the only time when a skin doesn't apply to a specific slot is when it's a weapon, but then it applies to the weapon type rather than the specific weapon.
I'm also a big fan of like a transmog system, And I'm a big fan of like the Diablo transmog system, where if I have owned it, I can, for a cost, most of the time in game or something, transmog my gear to the specific look, so that I can build sets more easily, and I'm not trying to like piecemeal something together that works because like here's all the great stats, but then you look like you rolled around in a junk drawer, and you want it to look good too. So there's that aspect of it, and I think a transmog system would go a long way to doing that.
They also need to implement that system that was that came up was put forth by the community. The whole sort of like dummy in your house with like the gear set on it. That needs to happen, because that is fantastic.
Yes, being able to identify sets of gear and being able to hot swap that gear quickly would be vital.
Yeah.
Like, even if I could label my gear, like right now you can lock it, but like if I could also add like a letter so that I know, okay, all of the A's in this are, for my intelligence set, all of the B's in this are for my strength set, like just something to help distinguish would go a long way. But I think an actual like set up a mannequin in your house system, like has been proposed on Reddit and the forums, would be like an infinitely better system than even what I'm thinking.
Also, that really helps with like sort of player driven kind of RP storylines and stuff, because like we've seen people sort of start to create kind of try and create sort of their own sort of machinima sort of stuff, with New World to some degree, and having those mannequins all in like a nice little like semicircle, and having like an RP kind of version of somebody who's just batshit insane, speaking to them like they're actual real things, talking about the crazy shit that they're gonna do. Like, yeah, that would be pretty kind of cool.
Oh,
yeah. Just a thought out there,
So with that, I don't really have. Do we have any other major topics for tonight?
I don't think we do. Like, as far as I know, like unless we want to like get some Q&A from from people in Twitch. But as for actual prepared content, I think we're through pretty much everything. It's been a fairly light week, so.
We're gonna unfortunately we're about to get hit with an ad here on its normal schedule, so apologies for that. But but that said, let's drop into a Q&A. Let's have some fun, and let's talk New World.
Green
so
Key is kind of one of those weird things, like.
So I got a question. It's probably.
Oh yeah, go for it.
This already happens to some of the players in the system of buying a spot on Lazarus and Genesis, like 2K to enter and then pay and then get kicked.
Yeah, we actually talked about this on a previous
we talked about this a little bit last week, but this is like there's a number of problems with the expedition content, especially on the high end, where specifically they have a challenge on the like getting people in. I personally think most of this could be solved by the owner of the orb should be allowed to sell the orb on the market, for one, because that's gonna solve some of the problems. From there's also enabling the you need to maintain an ability to remove people. However, there needs to be a way to punish people who are doing something shady. Like if you are active in a dungeon, like let's say you just start the dungeon, you paid your 2K to the person, and it turned out to be a pre-made group of 4 that they were just trying to scam 2K, and then they go and invite their 5th just because they can. I don't think that that's a acceptable thing to happen, and I would assume that Amazon probably doesn't think that that's a super acceptable thing to happen either. They haven't been super gung-ho about people scamming people to begin with, so that's kind of a big one.
Yeah.
That said, those orbs have value, and I think many of the scam type issues would be solved by people not, or by people being able to just sell the orb through the marketplace. Instead of having to actually enter and then bring in people and then leave to sell all 5 slots or something like that. Now the other side of this is join a company and you're much less likely to get scammed, because the guys in your company should be looking out after you, and you should be building a cohesive group to run the dungeon with.
Exactly.
And if you're in a group, if you're in a company that the company people are scamming you, then join a different company.
Yeah, exactly.
Because they're not your friends.
I mean, either talk to somebody who's in a position of authority and leadership in your company if you do get scammed by somebody in your company, or if it's just wholesale, nobody's helping you in that situation and you're getting scammed, just go to a different company. As Ace said. I wanted to sort of just voice a remark with regards to whether bots can actually reply to conversation inside of in a local chat or something like that. They can, if it is literally an automated response, their responses will be fairly limited. But there are systems in other games, and I'm fairly certain that there is this kind of functionality inside of some of the bot programs that are being used in New World, that if there's a fairly lengthy delay, what's happening there is the bot program is actually noticing that there's conversation going on, and what it does is it basically routes, using a third-party program, that conversation to a real person who's controlling, basically minding a whole bunch of bots, and then they're kind of conversing through a proxy to that and conversing using that bot. So just a few things to look out for.
Yes. So on the topic of war horns and using them all of the time for making sure that the buff is up the entire time, that is a strategy. There is a counter strategy to that called killing their siege. Because if they're using that many war horns, odds are they don't have that much siege, and you should be able to take it down. You should also be able to just have people run around with ruinous muskets and be able to take out their horns pretty easily. As somebody who's won a number of wars, I can tell you that people don't understand the value of siege, both defensive and offensive.
Didn't we?
Defense, you really only win wars if you understand the value of siege and the value of actually supporting your siege section. I'm gonna dive into this one because this is wildly misunderstood in the game. What's the question?
I want to ask you something because I can't quite remember. Did we have a siege or like a 50-on-50 where we didn't really use siege that much, but we just basically put war horns over everything, almost everything, right? Didn't we do that?
I don't think we did, but there was an idea to do it. But it is a thing you can do. Because they're not directional, they're AoE in a circle. Yeah. So, little known facts about Siege. So here's the thing about wars. If you're in a defensive fight, wars are all about keeping people off the points, which is why you see explosive turrets used frequently. It's not just because they deal a good amount of damage and they deal a damage to multiple people, it's because they throw people. And they can literally throw people off of the points, which can help you win on a defensive fight. Now, the other side of this is offense. Offense actually has better siege. The difference is defense starts with their siege pre-upgraded. And they can't replace their siege once it dies. Offense can replace their siege up to the limit as many times as they want, and they can upgrade it over time. Now, the odds of you using T3 siege equipment on offense are just not going to happen, so because you can win with T1 siege anyways. But here's where people make mistakes in offense. If you're on offense, haste potions are a waste of money, or a waste of the battle points. Most people see their siege group as, you know, oh, here's these 10 people will go off and do their thing, and they'll just keep their turrets up. That's not possible. You don't make enough battle points as siege to actually keep your turrets up by yourself. So what we've done in every war that we've won is everyone buys siege. Absolutely everyone buys siege in on the offense side, because then if I see as I'm running by one of our siege turrets drop and it gets destroyed, plop down a new one. Siege gets in it and they do their own thing again. I'm no worse the wear, but my side is still going to win because we're still dropping fire bombs on the point from 10 firebomb turrets comparatively to the defensive running running anything.
And if the other thing is as well with that is, if the defensive siege is wholesale, basically just like spending all of their time dealing with the multiple siege turrets, offensive siege turrets going up all the time, then they're not prioritizing their fire, they're not prioritizing their damage on the point, which gives your guys on the point a lot more breathing room to be able to actually get something done. And if they do have to swap, then you have that ability with so many people having siege to be able to drop down siege and basically eradicate a turret or two or three, right? And when those turrets are gone from the ramparts, they're gone permanently for the whole match.
And like how we normally run siege is, or how we normally run a war is, everybody brings a musket. This is like my go-to strategy. 100% of your team brings a musket. The first 30 seconds of the war, everyone's using muskets and just plinking away at towers and killing off any of their siege that you can. You can kill even if you are not skilled into a musket, you can kill a comical amount of their siege in very, very, very little time. We killed within 40 seconds. We killed 6 siege emplacements in the opening 40 seconds of a war, with the majority of people not being skilled into muskets.
And the other thing is, it's not a case of you're asking people to have one of their 2 main weapons for the majority of the war be a musket. They can bring their normal weapons, but just have a musket in their bag that they have ready at the start of the actual match. But then once you've done that first musket round, that sort of musket bunch of salvos to where it's not becoming as effective anymore, then everybody can swap back to their regular weapons. But having everybody be able to, when it's required or when it's sort of called upon, to swap to a musket and start putting down a good amount of alpha onto a turret to kill it, it creates a lot of breathing room on the point if you can kind of neutralize turrets that are looking over a particular point that you want to take.
Now, the other thing is, like, from an offensive perspective, you have the most powerful siege in the game. The firebomb launchers are easily the most powerful siege in the entire game, because it doesn't matter how much healing you're receiving, you are going to die unless you have fire resistance. Specifically,
I literally have a set specifically for war that has, you know, like fire mitigation
for defense.
Specifically for that. Yeah,
you know, because it's if one side actually learns their crap, like, it's actually meaningful. It can cause a meaningful impact to the war, especially when you have 10 of them out and you can carpet the entire area in the point and behind the point, making it impossible for any healers to be anywhere nearby to heal the people who are burning to death trying to stay in the point with your guys who aren't affected by friendly fire.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't understand that, but that can be, like, it's not about placing it in the same spot. Spread the fire out so that it's complete toxic ground there. And there's no amount of heals that you can do to counter that.
This is a very good point, because I've also seen this on other streams as well. Like, you know, when people are streaming, you know, offensive attacks on various different things, like getting to that final point and then, like, not having enough kind of, you know, momentum to be able to actually take that point. Like, one of the best, like, strategies for taking that point is to take out B, you know, the sort of like the doors at B, right? And then just line that door area, like, you know, from left to right in fire turrets, and just carpet bomb that particular, you know, that final point.
I'll do you one better.
Damage.
A, B, and C. You can hit that center point from A, B, and C. You got to bring the turrets a little closer in on the two side points, but they can definitely hit the point through the doors or over the doors as well.
Yeah.
So, like, you can place them further back and just lob them in.
So I don't see that, like, as being the default strategy when it comes to that final point. Like, there's been multiple times where I've, like, watched a stream and just been like, well, why aren't they doing this? Like, it's a clear, obvious strat that, like, works. So yeah, little tip for you guys there.
Yeah. Now, here's the thing: we have given people this recipe to win over and over and over and over again.
3 months. Yeah.
For literally the last 3 months since we took our territory. And, you know, we've won a number of wars doing this. And everybody decided, oh no, we couldn't possibly, follow your lead on how this works. You know, I think Red Laugh has a copy of the.
Red Laugh has one. Yeah.
Mine, unfortunately, mine does not. I don't have a copy of the actual war, but I think Red Laugh has it.
Yeah, I know Red Laugh at one point when we were part of Covenant on our server. One of our victories was definitely covered by his stream at some point.
Let me.
We're on Paralis, by the way. I wouldn't consider us to be a high pop. We're a mid pop, I would say, mid to high.
All right. You know what? I'm gonna showcase this because we have it. We have it from Red Laugh's perspective. I'm also gonna link his YouTube in the channel here. He's also a Twitch streamer, so feel free to show him some love on Twitch.
Yeah.
Great guy. We play with him, good amount of the time on our server on Paralis. But let's. So right off the break, you guys able to hear this?
It's not coming through. The actual stream isn't coming through, but like your voice is coming
front
through.
Left.
All right. So notice everybody's dropping siege right off the break.
All right.
It's a mix.
Right.
Basically, what we're trying to do off the break is get as many siege equipment out. You can see we've got 10 of 10 out. They don't know what to do. They're confused. They're like, they got to come to us, right? Well, we're not fighting on the point here. We're like, we don't care about the point. We care about the siege. in this time, we've already killed multiple pieces of siege equipment on their wall.
Off to the right.
Yeah, like this is the thing. Like when you come out, like they're expecting you to try and rush, right? But the thing is, when you've got, you know, half an hour's worth of time, like there's no point rushing a point. Like, you know, there's the only situation that you're gonna end up in there is a lot of dead players for not really that much turnaround. Like you're not going to surprise somebody to be, you know, by getting to a particular point with haste potions. Like, you know, any decent sort of defensive team that is worth like holding any kind of territory at this particular point knows to have, you know, particular teams for defensive, you know, for, you know, to defend particular points, and then you have a roaming kind of large group of multiple kind of teams that respond to those groups depending on how much you know, how much enemy sort of activity is you know, basically barreling towards them. So, you know, trying to you know, haste potion a point, you know, to be a victory for you at the start of the game is just not, it's not going to work. It's very rare that's going to happen.
So something to note here. Notice that, like, you know, we've got all of our siege up. We've got people trying to get in and out of siege. We've got them shooting turrets. They're taking out as many as they can. This is like really valuable here. From here, once we take out an acceptable number of them, now it's about taking down our repeaters. And this is where having the entire army buying siege is important. We're going to start switching out our repeaters for firebombs, because it's no longer about the attacking their siege. It's now about attacking the point. And we're going to take B as one full strategy here, or one full group, never splitting up. Like there are some strategies that'll work in terms of like splitting and counter rotating and all that, but I've found that if you keep your entire army together, you're always going to be a little bit better off.
You'll see a giant ballista poking out there. Kill it.
It's about understanding where the power from a defensive standpoint comes from, and, you know, your potency as an offensive group, and, like, you know, how potent you can be in terms of getting an objective complete, you know, using your entire army versus, you know, using a third or a quarter of your army.
Mm-hmm.
As you can see, like, there's, you know, different
yeah, there's already 10 up again.
different things up. Like, as you can see, Red Last trying to put down a a fire turret, because what we're doing here is now, you know, now that we've taken out a lot of the defensive siege, you know, repeaters aren't exactly great for, you know, dealing a lot of damage to a lot of players at one time. In actual fact, it is, you know, you deal one bit of damage to, you know, one person at any one time. So
and those repeaters are focusing the back line. They're focusing the healers, they're focusing the mages. They're making it painful for them to be of assistance, while the fire bombs are hitting the point and making it a lot more painful to be there.
Yeah.
So we took B.
Everybody going to A.
So now, first thing we do, all of the siege equipment comes down. Every last bit of it. Because now it's not optimal. We don't need siege on this point. We need siege over at A where we're attacking. So you take it down, you move over, you reset your siege over on C, or over on A here, giving you siege superiority, effectively. Giving, you know, massive amounts of fire damage, massive amounts of ability to peel off people from the backside. You know.
Yeah, and there's also a potential opportunity as well here to be able to hit some of the, you know, the more, you know, some of the siege that was, you know, not really in range from our initial kind of like, you know, smashing of defensive siege. So that is a potential possibility, but you know, As you can see, A point is being taken very quickly, and that's that's very much in part down to the fact that we have a lot of turrets available to us and a lot of fire launchers specifically.
Yeah. So right now, the call is everybody as we take A, everybody needs to take down their siege, and as they cross by B, you can now buy from the point. And this right here is like the definition of compliance with the orders of a commander in a war. Like, you tell people, hey, I need you to do this. I need everybody to go buy siege equipment from the point at B. And that's like 3/4 of the army is on the point.
The funny thing is, at this point, the defensive team are scrambling to respawn and like, you know, figure out and get to C point. Like, at this particular point, they could, if they were able to, if they had the siege available to them, they could carpet this particular point and get so many kills, but they're not. Then they don't have the siege to do it. Their siege team doesn't have anything to hit that point with, and you know, the people who, you know, could potentially put down fire, you know, sort of the majors and that kind of stuff, are all on, you know, are all respawning and running to C.
So like, this is the definition of just dominance, because we've got them on their back foot already. You can see up on the ramparts, they don't have siege to counter our siege with, so they have to rely on their team pushing into our back line, but their front line is crumbling from all of the fire on field. So, you know, now it's just about keeping them off the point and making it painful for them to be on the point.
I think there's only like maybe one turret up, but like, I think that's basically either almost dead, or the person that's jumping into it is basically getting hit every single time they jump.
Well, and you know, with one turret against 10, you know, like even if you've got a T3 turret, also, Red Laugh is great with this Great Axe, Fire Staff combo. He's
this was back when the Great Axe Fire Staff and the Great Axe sort of Life Staff combo was actually, you know, pretty damn good at that particular point. So now we're already at the ability to, at the point where we're taking down the gates, and we still have 21 minutes to go.
Somebody run through and basically empty out a lot of this.
Now, this is an older war, but this is just the strategy that we use. But you can see them all dying as they try and get back inside, and you know, our fire bombs are hitting this area, and it's causing just an immense amount of damage.
All right, everybody in the door. Everybody in the door. Anybody who has,
you know, the strat may be, you know, the fight may be fairly old comparatively, but the strat is still very much viable.
So now the command from here is taking anybody who's got siege still is going to go to B. They're taking down all the stuff from our attack on the point. They're going to B. They're going to replace those siege emplacements so that they can take down the door, but also so that they can fire in on the point through the front door. We're going to skip ahead a little bit here.
Yeah. What you need for that to be successful is you need to be able to control the ramparts.
I'm just gonna go in.
Yes.
Let's not trickle in. Don't trickle in.
We need to make a really big push together, and if you see a turret that's not being used, get rid of it.
Yep, if you see turrets not being used, destroy them.
I mean,
also, they go for the follows.
That's definitely.
So you can see that we're just firing, you know, lobbing stuff in there, and prepping all of these so that we can just douse the point with damage. But it gets even funnier, because when you get up over here, you can see, hey, there's a turret over here. What a weird placement.
We need to take those repeaters down, guys.
And Red Laugh's actually going to replace it.
Back of the point, we need to kill those.
And you can see the back side of the point from here. So now he's, putting fire damage onto the point from the side instead of from the front.
He gets a good hit just as he gets out. Like, look at that. Look at all that damage. Like, suddenly coming.
Group 2 and Group 3.
It's unfortunate that he didn't, fire off a few more rounds and stuff like that. But yeah, he didn't quite get the damage on the first 2 shots, but the third one, like, really hit strong.
Get into the point. Push onto the point. If it's that bad, push straight onto the point.
So you can just see him melting all over the place.
If it's this bad for us,
There's so much AoE going down all over.
we're starting to win.
This is how you win. Get them on cooldown and then get in on the point.
This particular point, the point is halfway taken, and it does not look like that's going to change.
Guys, come on, everybody on the point. Everybody on the point. Unless you're on a turret, get on a point.
Oh my God.
If they're down, we got this.
We got this. Come on.
It's just it's deadly ground. It's deadly ground for any any hostiles on that point. And there you are.
Is there a link to the vid? Yeah, I can share the link.
He might be a little bit happy about that one.
Yeah.
And
totally recommend. Like, Red Laugh is one of the guys we chat with pretty frequently. Totally recommend his channel. He also runs a our Twitch channel that I highly recommend.
Yeah.
So I know that was a tangent that I wasn't expecting to go on, but so many people misunderstand wars that like there is a comprehensive way of winning. You have to get a group of people that are willing to listen. You have to get a group of people that are willing to follow the plan, and you have to have a plan that thinks about creating toxic ground for your enemy, creating high ground for yourself and defensive ground for yourself, while also keeping your army together. Yeah. So it's a very unique style.
The thing is, like, and you're not wrong there, Hoochilla. Like, people will get sniped out of cannons and stuff like that. But the thing is, when you have your entire army with a siege cannon of some way, shape, or form, if one gets sniped out, somebody, people can get back in. There's like when there's like 10 siege down at any one particular point in time, like always. It's hard to make sure and maintain that like every single person jumping in is getting sniped.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah.
And the other side of it is, it's very difficult to get sniped if you don't have a turret to snipe them from, or you're just using your musket. Well, okay, hey, you've also got to deal with a lot of incoming repeater fire that could very well be focused at you. It's a very
the very fluid situation that you have to deal with. Like,
yes.
Obviously, that situation in that particular war that you kind of saw, it could obviously have been dealt with a lot better from a defensive standpoint. But it was one of those things where, that team was clearly expecting, a certain set of events to occur. And when those events didn't occur, like straight away, they were really confused. Us not running to B point straight away to try and cap it was confusing to them, because they literally ran out to B point, got to B point, sat there, wondered what the hell was going on, while we basically nuked a whole bunch of their defensive siege, and then essentially turned those siege around and onto them.
Yes. I also, for those that are in chat, I actually like the context there. I really wish that there was some sort of war training room, because like Outpost Rush kind of has some of this, but it also doesn't, because you can't coordinate with a full group of 20, and you can't, like, the siege just isn't anywhere near as valuable, especially offensive siege is just kind of a joke. We play on Paralysis.
You can actually do this. If you guys ever want to sort of like wondering where we play, you can always exclamation point server. Yeah, I don't know. Like, should we field a few more questions for the show?
Yeah,
that's about it. Yeah,
we'll answer a couple more, and then I think we're gonna raid the Watcher.
Ooh, haha. Okay.
Yeah. For those that don't know, the Watcher is a guy who is part of Viva La Dirt League. He also runs his own Twitch channel. Great guy. If you haven't seen Viva La Dirt League, look it up on YouTube. It's a phenomenal content creation. Great comedy, epic NPC man. Like everything that they do is just spot on. And of course, he plays New World. Mm-hmm. So,
yeah. And he has a bunch of really, really cute kittens as well.
Yes, he also has a bunch of cute kittens that are adorable. And I feel like every time we raid him, he ends up like going in and checking out his kittens, and it's always like the most adorable thing I've seen.
Yeah. But yeah, guys, if you haven't tried that meta, try it. Like, you may be very surprised. Like, it does require a full team of 50 to actually, respect the commands given and actually do them.
And I mean, there's other variations on it as well. So like some people will have, the majority of their army just run straight past the points and use closer range attacks and take out the siege from close in. That's also a completely legitimate strategy, and just set up your siege further back so that they're kind of doing their own thing, and as you respawn, you're replacing siege equipment as you roll through. There's variations on it that definitely work, but one thing I can tell you is the first volley that we had of everybody firing their muskets, we literally one-shot a turret. It evaporated. And that was with the majority of people who were not skilled or attribute point towards a musket. Like, it was literally let's do this,
I was hoping to get like muskets that had ruinous for siege damage. But like that was just with like normal muskets that had rando kind of perks here, there, and everywhere, right? Like.
Are we shot callers? I used to do a lot more shot calling. Now I'm frankly lazy, and I show up when I'm requested to, and I play much more relaxed than I used to. But when we were running our own company, I was primarily shot calling.
I mean, me personally, I'm more used to devising strats than actually being a shot caller as such. So, from a moment-to-moment kind of perspective, shot calling is, something that I probably don't excel too well with. And in that kind of sense, I leave that to the people who have the gift of the gab, the ability to just, to get that information out as fast as possible where it needs and how it needs to be.
Yeah. So I want to take a moment, thank everybody who's hit the follow button. There's been a lot of you guys. I want to thank all of our subscribers, all of our Patreons, all of our just everybody watching, and our Discord boosters. I can't thank you guys enough. You guys actually do keep that custom link as a thing by supporting, just by using your Discord Nitro on our Discord. If you guys are interested in continuing the conversation after the show, we'll be in the public chat on the Discord. Feel free to join us. We'll be having a good time.
And I wanted to quickly inject in here before you sign us off as such. But if you guys are interested in any kind of New World based sort of tools and that kind of thing, definitely go check out nwdb.info. The other really awesome thing about that that particular site is obviously it is a database of all things New World. So it has an amazing database for perks, for items, for, you know, all that kind of stuff. So if you're planning on figuring out which weapons to use and which perks for which weapons to use for, you know, any particular kind of war strat, for example, like definitely go check that out. You know, you can you'll find some really, really cool tools there.
Yeah. So with that, I want to thank everybody. It was a great show. Looking forward to seeing you guys at next week, same time, Tuesday afternoon, or Tuesday 6 o'clock for the pre-show Eastern time, 7 o'clock for the actual show. Happy to have you guys here for one, both, or either way. And on top of that, if you missed the show, feel free to catch up on YouTube. So thank you guys, and as we always love to say, we'll see you in the new world.